Combat. The art of war. Draw your sword, ready your spells, and hide in the shadows, because we are about to roll for initiative. GameMasters here, and you may very well find yourself marching through the Shadowdark, minding your own business, seeking out long-lost treasures, but eventually you will encounter danger. And by danger, I kind of mean any of the following monsters. Bugbears, brain eaters, even a polar bear, kind of like they did back on the TV show Lost. Or you might find yourself face to face with a dark mantle, or a demon, or perhaps a dragon or two. Maybe a gibbering mouther, or the innocent Oni. Or a deadly pack of dire rats who only want to gnaw at your boots and spread disease, waiting for your mortal coil to fail once you hit 0 constitution, so that it can move from gnawing on your boots to gnawing on your flesh and bones. In other words, you'll have to face combat at some point as you play Shadowdark. But when first approaching a creature, or when one is approaching you, the Game Master needs to determine if both can see each other, or is one going to surprise the other. Should you get the edge up on such a monster, you get to take a turn before combat initiative takes place. But what all can you do on that turn? Well, should you remain stealthy, you are going to roll with advantage against that surprised target. But otherwise, on your return as a player, you will count down any personal timers for spells and other effects, like torches. You will take an action and move towards the monster, or if you are already within range, you can simply go on an attack, which again will be with advantage. But now, we got to roll for initiative. Once the surprise element has been resolved, then combat initiative begins. Everyone at that point will make a dexterity check, and the person with the highest result takes their turn first. Then you go in a clockwise order at that point. During your combat turn, characters can take one action and move up to near. Remember, in Shadowdark, distance and movement is measured in close, near, and far, with close being out to 5 feet, near being up to 30 feet, and far being within sight. So in this combat turn instance, you can move up to 30 feet. Should you not take an action, you can move again. So this would be effective should you deem it necessary to haul your ass out of combat. But should you decide that it's time to test the fates and see if your mortal coil can withstand the trauma it's about to endure, based on your class, you can perform one of the following actions. Make a melee attack, make a ranged attack, or cast a spell. Of course, even if you can do one of those, you could instead choose to improvise or even multitask. A melee attack, of course, uses melee weapons. You'll roll 1d20 plus your strength modifier plus your talent bonuses. And remember the talent bonuses that we covered back when we did the Ancestries a few videos back. I'll link to those up above me here should you want a refresher on those. Provided that your total is equal to or greater than the target's armor class, then you're going to hit that creature. Ranged attack works in a very similar fashion, only instead of rolling strength, it's dexterity. So you'll roll the 1d20, add your dexterity modifier, and add your talent bonuses. Like with melee, if your total is equal to or greater than the creature's armor class, you're going to hit. Casting a spell takes up a single action, and while we did an in-depth coverage of spells, also in a previous video, and I'm also going to try to link that up above me here too, I'll briefly go over how that works. If you are a wizard, you'll make a spellcasting check by rolling a d20, and then you'll add your intelligence modifier. If you're a priest, you'll roll a d20 and add your wisdom modifier, and instead of rolling against the target's armor class, you'll instead roll against the spell's DC, which is 10 plus the spell's tier. Again, more details on spellcasting can be found in our spells video. Should you wish to improvise instead of performing a melee or ranged attack or casting a spell, and performing an improvised action is something like swinging on a vine to get across a ravine or trying to run across a rickety bridge. This is what you do in the course of doing that improvised action. Or you can choose to multitask, which is defined as small parallel tasks such as standing up, speaking, activating a magic item, or drinking a potion. But what's interesting here is that it also states that doing these tasks typically don't use their action. But now that we've gotten the overview of combat down, what happens when our sword, arrow, or spell actually lands and hits that monster? Provided that your rolls were good, that you overcame the creature's armor class and successfully cast your spell, you then roll for damage. For example, a Bastard Sword is going to do 1d8 damage, and if you swing it with just one hand, or 1d10 if you're using both hands. Or a crossbow will do 1d6 damage. Or let's say you successfully cast Fireball, it would do 4d6 damage. You'll add your relevant bonuses, and the Game Master will subtract that amount from the target's hit points. There is also the ability to knock a creature out. You've been tracking this one particular goblin down over the course of, say, a mile. You finally find it, and it's not going to go down without a fight. Yeah, you could slobber knock it into its next life, but you've been tracking it for a reason. It knows vital information regarding a shipment of contraband magic items. So sending the goblin into its next life would not be smart. Instead, you can choose to knock that goblin out instead of killing it, effectively reducing its hit points to 0, and then you can interrogate it. Of course, you could also get a critical hit should you roll a natural 20 on your attack roll or spellcasting check. Weapon critical hits are super easy to calculate. You just simply double its damage dice. So that two-handed Bastard Sword, well, it's got a 1d10 for damage dice, so doubling it, you'd roll 2d10. Should you roll a critical hit on your spellcasting, you'll double the numerical effect of that spell. For example, should you cast Fireball, you'll double its damage dice from 4d6 to 8d6. Or in the case of Mage Armor, making a critical spell check roll will cause your armor class to skyrocket up to 18 as opposed to the standard 14 it would normally provide. Of course, if you and your table decide to treat critical hits in some other way that works better for you, then by all means, you are free to do that. What happens should you find yourself in a swamp and knocking at death's door? Shadowdark, like other game systems, uses advantage and disadvantage, with advantage being that you roll twice the dice and take the higher of the two, and disadvantage rolling twice the dice and taking the lower of the two. Should you find yourself in a swamp, or in a forest, or in a cave, or anywhere else where there is cover, provided that at least half your body is behind cover, anything that attacks you will be rolling with disadvantage. If that creature cannot see you, then it cannot target you. But I have a question for you. Take a look at the Fire Dragon's breath weapon. It states that it is, in size, a double near-sized cube. We know that near size is 30 feet, so this cube would be 60 feet. If you were hiding behind a rock and the dragon let loose its breath weapon, would you take any amount of damage? What if you were hiding in bushes? It still can't see you. And where a rock can somewhat shield you, bushes likely wouldn't. They would kind of go up in flames too. They would ignite. And how would you rule that aspect of terrain? Let me know down in the comments. Now quickly, let's head back to the swamp. Now that we are standing in a cold and muddy swamp, whatever your speed is, you'll move half of that when in terrain that hampers free movement. But the good news is, so will the creatures that are hunting you. Well, unless they're flying. Flying creatures can ignore ground terrain. Well, at least up until the point where they land. But let's say that you and your party are facing down 5 goblins. You've taken down 3 of them. The remaining 2 are going to have to make a DC 15 wisdom check, and upon failing, they're going to flee. Of course, your Game Master might also make you make a DC 15 wisdom check, a morale check, should you witness your horse slowly sink into the swamp. GMs can be cruel like that, especially in Shadowdark. Speaking of that swamp-sunken horse, should a monster or you yourself drop to 0 hit points, you are considered to be unconscious and are dying. This kicks off a death timer. You'll roll 1d4 plus your constitution modifier. In that many rounds, you'll die. Of course, should someone heal you or otherwise stabilize you, that can cancel the death timer, and once you get above 0 hit points, you're no longer dying. Of course, there's nothing to say that you can't get hit again and drop back down to 0 hit points. In the event that no one is there to save you, on each of your subsequent turns, you'll roll a d20. Should you roll a natural 20, you rise up with 1 hit point. To stabilize a dying creature, you must be at close range. And remember, that's within 5 feet. And on a DC 15 intelligence check, that creature staves off the dying condition. They will still be unconscious, so they can't perform any actions, but at least they're not dying. Now, should you perish, that is, go those 1d4 rounds, plus your con modifier, without being healed or stabilized, then your character is retired from the game and it'll be time to roll up a new character. Which is a fantastic segue into exploring how to roll up a character in Shadowdark. But that's a video for another day. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss that. For now, I want to thank everyone for watching, and I especially want to thank my YouTube members and Patreon supporters, as their contributions to the channel have made it so that I didn't need to take on a sponsored ad for today's video. And come on, we skip those anyways, don't we? If you'd like to check out how to become a YouTube member or a Patreon supporter, I'll leave a link down below in the description, but also below my little talking box here. I'd also like to invite you all to my GameMasters Discord, as that's a great place to hang out and chat. I'm in there often, and it's also a great place to help shape the future and direction of this channel, as you are always welcome to provide feedback and ask questions. I'll leave a link down to that down below in the description as well. Combat in Shadowdark is not complex. It's got some nuances for sure, but it's fairly straightforward. I'm very fond of the openness of the critical hits. I like being able to interpret parts of the rules and alter them to where they will work best for me and my table, but I especially like the morale checks and the extra turn that you get should you surprise your enemy. Now let's keep the conversation going down in the comments. What's your favorite element of Shadowdark's combat? What would you change to make it work better, or do you feel it's fine as is? Again, talk to me down in the comments, and until next our paths cross, may Artax forever remain in our memories. Too soon? Oh, and watch this video next.